Marcus Chen stood in the crowded auction house on Station Calroth, watching numbers flash across the holographic display. Around him, alien traders muttered in dozens of languages. Some had 4 arms. Others had scales that shimmered under the lights. A few floated in gravity bubbles, their bodies too fragile for standard atmosphere. Marcus was the only human in the room. Lot 47, the auctioneer announced, his translator device converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic. Hangar Bay, 47, lower sector. Sealed approximately 7,000 years. Preliminary scans show minimal metal content. Opening bid, 50 credits. F. Silence filled the room. 7,000 years was ancient, even by galactic standards. Most species lost interest in anything that old. Technology moved forward. The past was just rust and dust. Marcus raised his hand. 11 credits. Laughter rippled through the crowd. The auctioneer's eye stalks twitched in what might have been amusement. 11 credits? Sir, the minimum bid is... There is no minimum, Marcus said calmly. You said opening bid was 50. Nobody bid 50. I'm offering 11. That's a legal bid. Under Galactic Commerce Law. Article 12. The auctioneer checked his database. His eye stalks drooped in resignation. Legal bid accepted. Anyone else? He waited. Nobody moved. Sold to the human for 11 credits. Marcus smiled. After 15 years of salvage work, he knew the rules better than most. 11 credits was less than a meal at the station cafe. Even if the hangar held nothing but empty space, he wouldn't lose sleep over it. 2 days later, Marcus stood outside Hangar Bay 47 with his crew. There were 3 of them. Yuki, his engineer, was already scanning the door with her equipment. Big Dave, despite his name, was a small, nervous man who handled the cutting tools. And there was MX. Rees, the pilot, who believed in ghosts and always wore lucky charms. These locks are old, Yuki said, running her fingers over the door's surface. Pre-digital. Maybe pre-electronic entirely. I've never seen this design before. One. I'm one. Can you open it? Marcus asked. Maybe. But look at this. She pointed to symbols carved deep into the metal. These are warnings. I recognize 3 of the languages. They all say the same thing. Stay out. Dangerous. Do not enter. Big Dave laughed nervously. Every old place has warnings. It's to scare away looters. Or it's a real warning, MX, Rees said quietly, touching one of their charms. Before Marcus could respond, a voice echoed from the station's communication system. It was scratchy, broken, like a recording played too many times. Warning. Unauthorized. Personnel. Guardian. Active. Entry. Not. Advised. The crew froze. Marcus activated his comm. Station AI. This is Marcus Chen. I'm the legal owner of Hangar Bay 47. I have authorization to enter. Guardian. Does not. Recognize. Ownership. Guardian. Protects. Always. The voice cut out, replaced by static. That's just a glitchy AI, Big Dave said, but his voice shook. This station is falling apart. Everything's breaking down. Marcus nodded slowly. Probably. But let's be careful anyway. Yuki, how long to open this? Give me an hour. These mechanisms are physical, not digital. I need to understand how they work before I can bypass them. While Yuki worked, Marcus studied the hangar door. It was massive, designed for ships much larger than his small salvage vessel. The metal was dark, covered in a thin layer of station dust. But underneath, he could see it was pristine. 7,000 years, and barely any corrosion. What had they built this from? Got it, Yuki shouted. She had removed a panel and was manipulating something inside with careful precision. The locks are mechanical, but they're genius. Multiple fail-safes. You can't force them open without destroying the door. But if you know the sequence, she twisted something. A deep clunk echoed through the corridor. Then another, and another. The door began to open. Not sliding like modern doors, but swinging outward on massive hinges. Ancient air hissed out, equalized with the station atmosphere. Emergency lights flickered on inside, casting long shadows. Marcus stepped forward, his portable light cutting through the darkness. The hangar was enormous. It stretched back further than his light could reach. And there, in the center, was a ship. Even in the dim light, Marcus could see it was beautiful. Not beautiful like modern ships, all smooth curves and efficient design. This was beautiful like ancient cathedrals were beautiful. Every surface was covered in engravings. The hull swept upward in deliberate patterns that served no practical purpose except to inspire awe. That's worth more than 11 credits, Big Dave whispered. But Marcus wasn't looking at the ship anymore. He was looking at what stood in front of it. At first, his brain couldn't process what he was seeing. It looked like smoke, but smoke that moved with purpose. It looked like shadow, but shadows didn't have faces. And this thing had faces. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They appeared and disappeared in the writhing mass, mouths open in silent screams, eyes wide with ancient terror. The thing noticed them. All the faces turned at once. Then it spoke. The voice came not from the air, but from inside Marcus's head. Inside, all their heads. Leave. MX. Reese ran first. Then Big Dave. Even Yuki, brave Yuki, who feared nothing, stumbled backward and fled. Their footsteps echoed down the corridor, growing fainter. Marcus wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at him to run. His legs trembled. His heart hammered against his ribs. But he couldn't move. Fear had frozen him completely. The Guardian flowed closer. The faces became clearer. Some were human-like. Others were completely alien. All were twisted in agony. The thing stopped just meters away, towering over Marcus like a wave about to crash. "Why?" the voice thundered in his skull. Marcus's mouth was dry. His voice came out as a croak. I'm too scared to move." The Guardian paused. The faces shifted, displaying something that might have been confusion. Then, impossibly, something else. Was that amusement? "You." "Yeah," Marcus gasped. For the first time in 7,000 years, the Guardian experienced something it had forgotten. Surprise. This strange, small creature with its impossibly short lifespan had just said something unexpected. Marcus stood frozen, while the Guardian circled him like smoke in a wind tunnel. The faces within its form kept changing. Some looked sad, some looked angry. All looked trapped. "You are different," the voice said inside Marcus's head. It was quieter now, less like thunder and more like a whisper from 1,000 mouths. "Others bring weapons, bring ships, bring confidence. You bring fear?" "I didn't bring it on purpose," Marcus managed to say. His legs were starting to work again, but he still didn't move. Running seemed like a bad idea when dealing with something that could probably catch him easily. The Guardian's form shifted, becoming more solid. Now, Marcus could see details he wished he couldn't. The faces were preserved in their final moments. Some showed surprise. Others showed pain. A few showed determination. These weren't decorations or projections. These were real people, or what remained of them. What are you?" Marcus asked. The Guardian pulled back slightly. I am guardian. I am protector. I am. It paused, as if searching for words it hadn't used in millennia. I am punishment. I am punishment. I am prison. I am the crew of the Morning Star, bound together forever to protect what we died for. Marcus's scientific mind kicked in, overriding some of his fear. You're the ship's crew? All of you? How many? 3,417. The answer came immediately, mechanically. We fought the final battle. We protected the cargo. When death came, the Empire offered us a choice: die and fail, or become eternal and succeed. We chose duty. That's horrible, Marcus said before he could stop himself. The Guardian's form rippled. Horrible? What empire? Marcus asked gently. I've studied galactic history. I've never heard of an empire that could do this. Whatever you're protecting, whatever war you fought, it's over. It's been over for thousands of years. The faces in the Guardian's form began to move faster, agitated. No. The war continues. The enemy seeks the knowledge. We must protect. We must guard. We cannot fail. We cannot stop. We cannot. The voice broke. For a moment, the unified voice split into thousands of individual voices, all talking at once. Marcus heard words in languages he didn't know, but he understood the emotion: despair, loneliness, and a desperate desire for something they couldn't name. Then the voices merged again. You should leave. I do not wish to harm you, but if you approach the ship, I must. It is my purpose. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay, I'll leave. But, can I come back? Just to talk? The Guardian's form flickered with something like confusion. Talk? Why? Because you've been alone for 7,000 years, Marcus said. That's a long time, even for something eternal. The Guardian didn't respond. But it didn't attack either. Marcus took that as permission to slowly back toward the door. His crew was probably terrified. Waiting outside, he needed to tell them what he'd found. But as he reached the doorway, the Guardian spoke again. Human. Your name? Marcus. Marcus Chen. Marcus Chen. If you return, bring no weapons. Bring no tools. Bring no companions who seek to take what is not theirs. I won't, Marcus promised. Outside the hangar, his crew was in a panic. Yuki was organizing an emergency evacuation. Big Dave was crying. Mex. Reese was praying to at least 3 different deities. We need to leave this station, Yuki shouted when she saw Marcus. That thing in there. It's not natural. It's not right. We should report this to the Galactic Council and let them handle it. Marcus shook his head. No, not yet. Are you crazy? Big Dave wiped his eyes. That thing will kill us. I saw faces, Marcus. Thousands of faces. All screaming. They're not screaming, Marcus said quietly. Over the next 3 days, Marcus returned to Hangar Bay 47 alone. Each time, he came unarmed and empty-handed, except for his lunch. He would sit just inside the doorway and eat, while the Guardian watched from deeper in the hangar. The first day, they didn't speak. Marcus ate his sandwich while the Guardian maintained its distance. The silence was heavy, but not hostile. The second day, the Guardian asked questions. Why do you eat? It asked, fascinated by the simple act. Marcus explained. I'm biological. I need energy to survive. Food gives me that energy. You must eat every day, multiple times a day, actually. The Guardian's form rippled with something like horror. You are constantly dying, constantly needing to refuel. How do you accomplish anything? Marcus smiled. We manage. What about you? Do you need anything? I need nothing. I am sustained by the station's power core. I have not needed food or rest or anything for 7,000 years. That sounds lonely, Marcus said. The Guardian was silent for a long time. Then, yes. On the third day, Marcus brought a tablet with human history files. He showed the Guardian pictures of Earth, cities, oceans, mountains, forests. The Guardian absorbed every image hungrily. Your world is beautiful, it said. Chaotic, but beautiful. So much. Life. So much change. Everything changes on Earth, Marcus agreed. Sometimes too fast. Here, nothing changes. I remain. The ship remains. The mission remains. Time passes, but I do not experience it. Not really. Each day is the same as the last. Each year, the same as the previous 1,000. Marcus hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering him. What's on the ship? What are you protecting? The Guardian's form grew denser, more solid. Knowledge. The complete repository of Anthar civilization. Science, history, art, philosophy. Everything they were. My people died to prevent it from being weaponized. We succeeded. We saved it. Who were they? The Anthar? Gone. Like the enemy. Like the Empire. Like everyone. The Guardian's voice carried an ocean of grief. I protected their legacy so perfectly that now, no one remains to inherit it. Marcus sat with that for a moment. Then he said something dangerous. What if someone could inherit it? What if there was a way to end your mission without failing it? The Guardian's thousands of faces all focused on Marcus at once. Explain. Quote, I need to do some research first, Marcus said carefully. But I think there might be a way to set you free. Free? The word sounded foreign in the Guardian's voice, like it had forgotten what the word meant. Free, Marcus confirmed. Would you want that? The Guardian didn't answer immediately. When it finally spoke, its voice was barely a whisper. I don't know if I remember how to want anything anymore. Marcus stood up, dusting off his pants. Then maybe it's time you learned again. As he left, he heard the Guardian call after him. Marcus Chen, thank you for seeing us, for seeing that we are still people. Marcus spent the next week buried in the station's ancient archives. His crew thought he'd lost his mind. Yuki tried to convince him to leave 3 times. Big Dave had already packed his bags. Only MX. Rees seemed to understand, though they kept their distance from the hangar. You're getting attached to a ghost? Yuki said one evening in their shared quarters. Marcus, that thing isn't alive. It's a weapon. A security system made from dead people. It's not a weapon, Marcus replied, not looking up from his research. It's a prison, and the prisoners didn't commit any crime except being loyal. He had been reading everything he could find about the old empire, the Anthar civilization, and galactic inheritance laws. Most of it was dry legal text that made his eyes hurt. But somewhere in these thousands of pages, there had to be an answer. Meanwhile, he continued his daily visits to the hangar. By the second week, the Guardian had started meeting him at the entrance instead of lurking in the shadows. It seemed more solid now, more present. The faces in its form had stopped screaming. Now they just watched Marcus with curious expressions. Tell me about humans, the Guardian said one day. I have never encountered your species before. You do not appear in any of my memories. Marcus settled into his usual spot near the door. We're new to the galaxy. Relatively speaking, we only reached space travel about 200 years ago. 200 years? The Guardian sounded amazed. In my time, species didn't reach the stars until they had existed for at least 10,000 years. How did you manage it so quickly? Stubbornness, mostly, Marcus said with a smile. Humans are good at wanting things we're told we can't have. We see a mountain. We climb it. We see the sky. We fly to it. We see the stars. We build ships to reach them. But you only live. How long? About 100 years. Maybe a bit more with good medicine. The Guardian's form rippled with what Marcus had learned to recognize as distress. 100 years. The Anthar lived for 3,000. My kind lived for 2,000. How do you bear it? Knowing you have so little time? Marcus thought about that. It was a question humans had asked themselves since the beginning. I think it's because our time is short that it matters more. We can't waste centuries. We have to live now, love now, build now. We don't have the luxury of waiting. But you lose everything, the Guardian said. Your friends die. Your family dies. Your works crumble. What is the point? The point is that we were here at all, Marcus said quietly. My grandmother used to say, we're not candles meant to burn forever. We're fireworks. Brief, bright, and beautiful. We matter because we choose to matter, even knowing we'll end. The Guardian was silent for a long time. The faces in its form looked thoughtful. The Anthar never spoke of such things. They had so much time. They never valued the present moment. They always believed there would be another 1,000 years to do what mattered. And then there wasn't, Marcus said. And then there wasn't. The Guardian agreed. Over the following days, their conversations deepened. The Guardian told Marcus about the war, though it admitted many details were fuzzy after so much time. 2 great empires had fought over Anthar knowledge. Both wanted to turn their art into weapons, their science into destruction. The Anthar refused, the Guardian explained. They said knowledge should enlighten, not destroy. When both empires threatened invasion, the Anthar sealed their repository in this ship and hired us to protect it. Were you warriors willingly? Marcus asked. The faces shifted uncomfortably. Some of us were. Some were conscripted. Some were criminals offered redemption. We were not all heroes, Marcus Chen. But we all died trying to be. And then your empire brought you back. They said it was an honor. They said we would be remembered forever. They performed the binding ritual, fusing our neural patterns into one collective consciousness. We became the Guardian. Eternal. Unbreakable. Unable to abandon our duty. Or to choose anything else, Marcus said. Or to choose anything else, the Guardian confirmed. One evening, Marcus brought something different. Music. He played recordings from Earth. Classical symphonies. Rock music. Jazz. Folk songs from a dozen cultures. The Guardian listened to all of it with what seemed like hunger. This is beautiful, it said when a piece by Bach ended. The Anthar had music, but it was mathematical. Perfect. This is messy. Emotional. Why does it move me when I no longer have emotions as you do? Maybe you have more emotions than you think, Marcus suggested. You said you felt lonely. That's an emotion. You feel curiosity when we talk. That's an emotion too. I am not supposed to feel, the Guardian said. I am supposed to guard, to protect, to maintain my post. Feelings are a malfunction. Or maybe, Marcus said carefully, feelings are proof that you're still people. Still 3,417 individuals who deserve more than an eternal prison sentence. The Guardian's form trembled. Do not give me hope, Marcus Chen. Hope is more cruel than despair when nothing can change. What if something could change? Marcus pulled out his tablet. I've been researching. There's a law, an old one. The Galactic Heritage Act. It says that when a civilization goes completely extinct, their cultural property can be claimed by a successor culture. There are no successors to the Anthar, the Guardian said. They were unique, not biologically. Marcus agreed. But culturally, they valued knowledge. They protected it, even unto death. They believed some things were more important than survival. He looked up at the swirling mass of faces. Humans believe that too. We build libraries and museums. We die protecting ideas. We preserve the past while building the future. The Guardian drew closer. You believe humanity could be named cultural successors to the Anthar? I believe we could try, Marcus said. And if we succeeded, if humanity inherited the Anthar legacy, then we would have the authority to release you from your duty. The mission would be complete. You would have fulfilled your purpose. For the first time since the binding, the Guardian felt something it had forgotten existed. Possibility. You would do this? It asked. You would fight for us? Risk rejection and humiliation before the Galactic Council for the sake of imprisoned strangers? Marcus smiled. You're not strangers anymore. You're friends. And humans don't abandon their friends. The faces in the Guardian's form began to change. Some smiled. Some cried. All looked at Marcus with something that might have been hope. Then tell me, Marcus Chen, what must we do? Marcus sat in his cramped quarters, surrounded by legal documents, historical records, and empty coffee cups. 3 days of constant research had left him exhausted but determined. The plan was ambitious, maybe impossible, but it was the only chance the Guardian had. The problem was simple. Proving cultural succession wasn't about DNA or technology. It was about values, beliefs, and actions. Marcus needed to show that humans carried the same spirit as the Anthar, even though they'd never met them. You look terrible, Yuki said, entering with fresh coffee. She'd stopped trying to convince him to leave. Now she just brought him caffeine and food. I'm close, Marcus said, rubbing his eyes. I found 12 precedent cases where species claimed cultural succession. Only 3 succeeded. The key is demonstrating shared values through concrete examples. Number 7. And you think humans share values with a civilization that died 7,000 years ago? I know we do, Marcus said. The Anthar protected knowledge, even when it cost them everything. Humans do the same. Look at the Library of Alexandria on Earth. When it burned, scholars ran into the flames, trying to save books. Or the Ukrainian museums during the wars, where curators stayed during bombardments to protect art. We die for ideas, Yuki, just like the Anthar did. Yuki sat down slowly. You're really going to do this? You're going to stand before the Galactic Council and argue that humanity deserves ancient alien heritage? Yes. They'll laugh at you. Humans are nobodies in the galaxy. We've been here 200 years. Most species have been traveling space for thousands. We're the new kids. The primitive ones. Marcus smiled tiredly. Good. Let them underestimate us. Humans work better as underdogs anyway. Back in the hangar, Marcus explained the plan to the Guardian. The entity listened carefully. Its thousands of faces showing different expressions. Hope, doubt, fear, curiosity. The Galactic Heritage Council meets on Central Station, Marcus said. I'll need to file a formal claim, present evidence, and argue our case. It could take months, maybe years. Years are nothing to me, the Guardian said. I have waited 7,000. I can wait longer. But there's a problem, Marcus continued. My crew wants to leave. They're scared. Big Dave already transferred to another ship. Yuki will stay a bit longer, but she wants to move on. I might have to do this alone, and I'll need money for travel, filing fees, legal representation. The ship, the Guardian said suddenly. Marcus looked up. What? The Morning Star. The ship I guard. It is priceless. Ancient technology, rare metals, artistic engravings. Sell it. Use the money for your case. Marcus stared at the Guardian in shock. I can't sell the ship. That's what you're protecting. That's your whole purpose. My purpose is to protect the Anthar repository, the Guardian corrected. The knowledge inside the ship itself is just a container. If selling it helps free me, helps complete my mission properly, then it serves its purpose. But, Marcus struggled to find words. It's beautiful. It's history. It deserves to be preserved. The Guardian's form rippled with something like warmth. You see? This is why you are worthy. You care about preservation, even when profit is offered. The Anthar would have loved you, Marcus Chen. Marcus thought about it. The ship could fund everything. Legal fees, travel, bribes if necessary. He could hire the best lawyers in the galaxy. The case would go from impossible to merely difficult. But it still felt wrong. What if we lose? Marcus asked quietly. What if the council says no? Then I've sold your ship for nothing. And you're still trapped. Then I am no worse off than I am now, the Guardian said. Marcus, I have been alone for 7,000 years. You have shown me kindness. You have given me conversation. You have reminded me what it feels like to be seen as a person rather than a thing. Even if you fail, you will have given me something I thought I had lost forever. Hope. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I'll do everything I can. I know you will. That is why I trust you. The next week was chaos. Marcus contacted ship dealers, arranged for evaluators to examine the Morning Star, and filed preliminary paperwork with the Galactic Heritage Council. The ship's value was staggering more money than Marcus had seen in his entire life. News spread quickly. A human claiming rights to ancient Anthar heritage? The story was too strange to ignore. Reporters from across the galaxy sent requests for interviews. Most were mocking. Some were curious. A few were hostile. Humans have no right, one Vrex ambassador stated publicly. They are children playing at galactic politics. The Anthar were advanced, sophisticated, wise. Humans are barely past their tribal phase. Marcus ignored the criticism. He had work to do. Yuki helped him prepare the presentation. MX. Rees contributed research on human cultural preservation efforts. Even Big Dave sent messages of support from his new ship, along with donations to Marcus's legal fund. The case was scheduled for 60 days from now. Central Station. Before the full Heritage Council, 23 different species would judge whether humanity deserved to inherit the Anthar legacy. The night before Marcus was scheduled to leave for Central Station, he visited the Guardian one last time. Are you ready? The Guardian asked. Marcus laughed nervously. No. I'm terrified. I'm going to stand in front of beings who've been navigating galactic politics since before Earth had agriculture. I'm going to argue that my species, who just learned to leave our solar system, deserves ancient treasures. You will succeed, the Guardian said with certainty. How do you know? Because you are not arguing for treasures. You are arguing for people. For us. And humans, I have learned, are very good at fighting for people they care about. Marcus smiled. I won't let you down. You already have not, the Guardian said. Whatever happens, Marcus Chen, you have already freed us from something worse than this prison. What's that? Being forgotten. Being unseen. Being nothing but a scary story told to frighten salvagers. You saw us. You spoke with us. You reminded us we were once people who chose honor. That alone is a gift beyond measure. Marcus left the hangar with tears in his eyes and determination in his heart. The fight for the Guardian's freedom was about to begin. Central Station was the largest structure Marcus had ever seen. It hung in, Space like a small moon. Home to millions of beings from hundreds of species. The Heritage Council chamber sat at its heart, a massive dome where decisions about galactic culture were made. Marcus stood outside the chamber, clutching his tablet with shaking hands. Inside were the 23 council members who would decide the Guardian's fate. He wore his best clothes, which still looked shabby compared to the elegant robes and environmental suits of the other species entering the chamber. "You can do this," he whispered to himself. "You're fighting for friends." The chamber was intimidating. Curved walls rose high above, covered in symbols from every major civilization. The council members sat in a semicircle, elevated above the presentation floor. Some looked like giants. Others were tiny, speaking through amplification devices. All looked ancient and powerful. The head counselor, a Vrex named Keithus with silver scales and 4 arms, spoke first. "We have reviewed your claim, Marcus Chen of humanity. You argue that your species should be named cultural successors to the Anthar civilization and inherit their repository of knowledge. This is unusual." "Yes, honored counselor," Marcus said, his voice steadier than he felt. "The Anthar were masters of science, art, and philosophy," Keithus continued. "They existed for 50,000 years. Humanity has been in space for barely 2 centuries. On what basis do you claim succession?" Marcus activated his presentation. Images filled the air around him. "Not on the basis of age or technology, honored council, but on the basis of values. The Anthar believed that knowledge was sacred, that it should be protected, preserved, and shared. Humanity believes the same." He showed them images from Earth. The Library of Alexandria, both its ancient glory and its tragic burning. The scholars who died trying to save it. Then modern libraries, standing in war zones, protected by librarians who refused to abandon their posts. During Earth's Second World War, Marcus explained, a group called the Monuments, men risked their lives to save art and books from destruction. Not for profit, not for power, because they believed human culture was worth dying for. He showed more examples. Museums in Ukraine, protected during bombardment. Ancient manuscripts in Timbuktu, hidden from terrorists. Scientists in Syria, saving seed samples during civil war. Monks in Tibet, preserving texts under persecution. In every era, in every culture, humans have chosen to protect knowledge even when it costs us everything. Marcus said, just like the Anthar did. A council member from the Thek species spoke up. But humans also destroy knowledge. Your history is filled with book burnings, library destructions, and cultural erasures. Marcus nodded. You're right. We're not perfect. We've made terrible mistakes, but we've also learned from them. We've built international laws protecting cultural heritage. We've created organizations dedicated to preservation. And most importantly, we've never stopped trying to be better. He paused, then showed one final image. It was the Guardian itself, taken with permission. The council chamber fell silent as they saw the writhing mass of preserved consciousness, the thousands of trapped faces. The Anthar protected their knowledge with warriors who became eternal prisoners, Marcus said quietly. For 7,000 years, these 3,417 beings have served without rest, without relief, without hope. Not because they want to, but because their programming won't let them stop. He looked directly at Keithus. The Anthar are gone. The war they fought is over. Both sides are extinct. These Guardians completed their mission perfectly. They protected the knowledge. But now there's no one to release them from their duty. No one to say, thank you. Your service is complete. And you believe humanity should have that right? Keithus asked. I believe someone should, Marcus said. These were people once. They chose honor. They chose duty. They chose to protect something greater than themselves. And for that choice, they've been punished with eternal imprisonment. That's not honor. That's cruelty. Another council member spoke. This time, a floating Quen in an environmental bubble. We could simply destroy the Guardian. Free them that way. You could. Marcus agreed. But that would mean they failed. Their mission would be incomplete. They would end as failures rather than heroes. They deserve better. Kethis leaned forward. And if we grant humanity succession rights, what will you do with the Anthar knowledge? Marcus had prepared for this question. Share it. Freely. We'll establish research centers where any species can study it. Universities where it can be taught. Museums where it can be seen. The Anthar believed knowledge should enlighten, not destroy. We'll honor that belief. Pretty words, Kethis said. But how do we know you'll keep them? Marcus smiled slightly. You don't. You have to trust us. Trust that a species who sends people into burning buildings to save books, who risks lives for art, who dies protecting ideas, that will do the right thing. The council fell silent. Marcus could see them conferring through their private channels, debating in languages he couldn't understand. Finally, Kethis spoke. We will hear testimony from the Guardian itself. A screen activated. The Guardian's image appeared, broadcast from Station Calroth. Its form was calmer now, more focused. The faces within it looked directly at the council. Honored Council, the Guardian said, its voice clear and strong. For 7,000 years, I have waited. Thousands have tried to take what I guard. They brought weapons, legal tricks, and false claims. Only one brought understanding. Only one saw me as a person, instead of an obstacle. The faces within the Guardian all turned slightly, as if looking at Marcus even though he was light years away. Marcus Chen came to me with fear and honesty. He brought me conversation. He reminded me what it meant to be seen. The Anthar valued compassion, wisdom, and the courage to do right, even when difficult. This human embodies those values. The Anthar would have called him brother. The transmission ended. The council chamber was absolutely silent. Kethis stood. The council will vote. One by one, the council members voted. It was close. Some voted against, citing humanity's youth and inexperience. But others voted in favor, moved by Marcus's presentation or the Guardian's testimony. When the final vote was tallied, the result was clear. Humanity had won by a single vote. The Galactic Heritage Council recognizes humanity as cultural successors to the Anthar civilization, Kethis announced. Marcus Chen, you have the authority to release the Guardian from its duty. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in Hangar Bay 47 for the last time. The Guardian waited before him, its form almost peaceful. You did it, the Guardian said softly. We did it, Marcus corrected. Your testimony made the difference. Then let us finish this properly. The Guardian's thousands of faces all smiled. Marcus Chen, as inheritor of the Anthar legacy, speak the words. Sign, with her legacy. I'm Fee, 17 Squeeding 4. Signed. Marcus took a deep breath. Guardian of the Morning Star, your mission is complete. Your duty is fulfilled. You protected the Anthar knowledge for 7,000 years. You succeeded perfectly. On behalf of humanity and the memory of the Anthar, I release you from service. You are free. The Guardian's form began to glow. The faces within it, all 3,417 of them, looked at peace for the first time in millennia. Thank you, they whispered together. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for freeing us. Thank you for being human. The light grew brighter. The Guardian's form began to separate, the neural patterns finally allowed to rest. One by one, the faces faded, each wearing an expression of gratitude and relief. When the light finally dimmed, the hangar was empty, except for Marcus and the Morning Star. On the ship's hull, new words had appeared, carved by the Guardian in its final moments. Here stood those who chose duty. Here came one who chose compassion. May all beings find such friends. Marcus wiped his eyes and smiled. The Anthar repository became humanity's gift to the galaxy, shared freely in universities across the stars. And Marcus returned to salvage work, though now he was known everywhere as the human who freed a ghost with nothing but empathy and determination. Hangar Bay 47 became a memorial, visited by thousands each year. The message was simple. Sometimes the most human thing you can do is see the person everyone else has forgotten. And in doing so, change the galaxy forever.